Have you ever wondered why sometimes the more we try to find love, the further away it seems to feel? Or why dating can feel so complicated when you're already carrying so much in your life? If that sounds like you, you're not alone. So many of us try to build relationships while we're still navigating heavy responsibilities, healing old wounds, or simply trying to hold our lives together. Welcome back to Turn the Lens Inward. I'm Lisa Taylor, your host, and this podcast is all about helping you pause, reflect, and look inward so you can live with more clarity, confidence, and self trust. In this solo episode, I'm sharing some very honest stories from my own dating life after a 22-year marriage ended. From awkward dates to difficult realizations, I talk about what it was like to try dating while raising a daughter through some incredibly challenging years, and what those experiences taught me about intuition, self worth, timing, and learning how to be okay on my own. By the end of this episode, you might start to see how sometimes the relationship we most need to build is the one we have with ourselves. So stick around because we're going to talk about dating, healing, and what happens when you finally learn to choose yourself first. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Turn the Lens Inward, and I am your host, Lisa Taylor. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about dating. I have some things to tell you about dating. So, I was a single mother raising a daughter who'd been diagnosed with some mental illnesses. I had left work. There were a lot of things going on in my life, but the whole point about turning the lens inward is to be able to recognize that you're still capable of living your life and enjoying your life. And there's a lot to be said about doing life on your own financially. There's zero support, and you're the one carrying it all. You're the one carrying it all. So the whole reason that I wanted to date was because I was looking for my life partner and that soul connection, looking for somebody to have some fun with, looking for someone for pleasure, looking for someone to love. As I've mentioned in other previous episodes, the heart was locked pretty tightly. So, needless to say, I wasn't very open as an individual for intimacy. And intimacy, I'm not talking about behind the bedroom door. I'm talking about intimacy with another human being and opening up myself, being available. When you're going through something as difficult as dealing with your teenage or adult child who has a lot of issues, mental, um, maybe addictions, maybe self-harm, whatever it is in your situation, you need to be able to be available for any type of crisis situation. So this is something that you need to consider when you want to go out and date. And I did consider that. And I used to almost preface every single date that I went on with, okay, so, here's my phone. There's no phone in my case right now. It's a case. I'm on my phone with you. Let's pretend there's a phone here. I'm going to be present for this exchange with you, but if my daughter calls, everything's off the table. I'm answering. And that's the way it was. So, what happens when you're dating in that situation is that the guy recognizes pretty quickly that he's not going to be of importance. He's going to be a little bit down on the ladder, down a few pegs, if you should reference it in that type of metaphor. And I think as a woman, what most women are looking for is to be considered important by the man. Nowadays, when it comes to dating, me personally, I'm looking for somebody who they wanna be with me and they put themselves out there and they show that. They call you, that they attempt to make plans with you. It's not sitting around waiting for this person to message you. So, when you're the person who isn't available, if we talk about energy and we talk about frequency, what you put out is usually what you get in return. So for me, I got a lot of I wasn't as important in their life and because they just weren't as important in mine. Not to say that I wasn't wanting that, I just wasn't available to do that. And if you wherever you are in your stage of this problem that you're experiencing, and this might even be applied to if you're married. How present are you in your relationship? How much of yourself can you give in your relationship when you're giving it all to this kid of yours? So, a couple situations. I'll share a few stories with you. It's really just more for entertainment, but I'm sure you'll get something out of it as well. My first real relationship, well, let's back up a little bit. When I first separated from my husband, I had met him when I was 20. I had been in maybe two, really one relationship and a couple of dating situations. And he and I were together for a very long time. I think it ended up being 22 years. So 20 to 42. So here I am, I'm 42, I'm free. I want to go out there. I want to experience life. I want to have fun. I had 3 other girlfriends at the time who were also separated, and we would go out to bars. We would the whole goal was to meet somebody, and that's what we tried to do. This was the age of internet dating, and we were on the apps, and we were constantly trying to meet a man, not so that we could be promiscuous per se, but so that we could have a human connection with somebody and really, again, look for that guy, look for that partner. When you first leave a relationship, you're not used to being alone, and nobody really wants to just be alone. And so that's what I did. On the weeks that I didn't have my kid, I was out there dating. I did meet a man. Uh, and we started to have a relationship, and I recognized within the first 3 months that he wasn't very healthy. But what he did and I think my daughter liked him. I think they kinda got along, eventually he was introduced, he would be at my house, I would go over to his house, we would go out for dinner, whatever kind of situations were. At the time, she was, like, 12, 13 years old, and what he did was he gave up his place without telling me and basically moved on into my house with my daughter without any discussion around that. So I didn't know about this. And when I was discovering still, you know what? I don't think we're the match that we should be. I think we should break up. I think, you need to leave. That's when he kind of dropped on me. Yeah, well, I don't have anywhere to go. What kind of person does that? Here's another question. What kind of person allows that to happen? Well, I'm not, I guess me, a broken woman who was naive and my self worth was low. And that is sort of what happened. And so I did love him, but he had some issues. So we kind of brought up the issues. And then we bought a house. I bought a house. He moved in with me and my daughter, and then he had 3 kids who would come over every other weekend, and in the summer, his ex decided, "Oh, no, we're just gonna let the kids stay with you all summer." Uh, so it was biting off a lot, and all while I was doing this, trying to have a relationship with my daughter. At that time, she hadn't been diagnosed, she was starting high school, so it was a big time in her life. And one of the things that I let this guy do was convince me that she was a little bit loud. She was a little bit too out there. She would come into her room and she was shine. She's a shiny lady. She's got such amazing energy. I just love her to pieces. She's really enthusiastic and fun and nice and sweet and kind, and she's got it all going on, I tell you. But I kind of squashed that for her. I squashed it to make him happy. This is one of the things that I did. Am I proud of it? No. Do I recognize it? Yes. Did I recognize it at the time? Not so much. This is one of those things where when you go in and you reflect, oh man, I might have been the cause of dimming her light. I was. I was the cause of dimming her light. I kept telling her, please be quiet. You don't have to scream. You don't have to be so loud. Can you just maybe uh, allow us to have some time alone? All the things that were totally wrong in my mind now, I was doing. He ended up just really just being awful. And I eventually did get him out of my life. Very happy for that. And then what did I do? Well, now I'm lonely. I continued to date, continued to meet guys, but I noticed the intimacy thing was becoming a major, major factor. I wasn't able to. We're sitting at dinner one time, this one guy, I went out with him twice, and he put his hand on my hand at the table, and I pulled it away, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, "Yeah." So I was forcing myself to try to go through this process of finding somebody even when I knew it wasn't right. I was giving myself this talk saying, "Oh, it's okay. You're going through the process. You have to give them some time. You have to get to know them to see if it's right or wrong." I'm just going to tell you straight up as a woman trying to find a man, dating, if your intuition tells you right off the bat it's not a connection, go with that. It's okay. It's so much better than dealing with having to break it off later. And so that's what kept happening. I kept running into situations where I was meeting guys and they just weren't the one. And eventually, I started to get better and better and better at listening to my intuition. Then I met this one guy. I'm gonna say, ooh, when was it? 2018, let's say. Into 2000, yeah, it was early 2000, late 2017, early 2018. I really liked him. He was fun. He was bad. He was different. He used to be in a band. He was hot. And I kept him away from my daughter. I went over to his house. And what I found myself doing was escaping my life with this man. We would watch the hockey game. We would watch Game of Thrones. Eventually, he introduced me to his friend and his wife, and so we would go over to their house and play darts. Uh, but he also kept his distance. There was some distance there, and there was this one time. So I haven't brought this up yet in the podcast, but in 2018, in April, my daughter was in a really major car crash. Her boyfriend at the time was driving, and she ended up being on the side of the road. I think an angel just picked her up and laid her down into the gravel, but she was ambulanced to our local hospital, and then, we all went, and I arrived before she got out of the ambulance. I could see her arms waving, so I knew that she was alive, and what they did was they put her into a coma, and then they ambulanced her down to a Toronto trauma center type hospital. And my family and my ex-husband's family, we were convening in this hospital, and I remember calling him, this gentleman that I was dating at the time, and leaving a message, something terrible had happened, and I'm down at the hospital with my daughter, and I really just wanted him to be there. And he called me early in the morning. He used to get up early for work, and because I was still at the hospital, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" And then he started judging the incident. He was not supportive at all, and was just like, "What am I doing?" Do you ever ask yourself that if you're a woman who's in a situation and you find yourself and you're like, "What am I doing?" But I had to be present at the time. So, a couple days later, my daughter's still in the hospital. I'm over at his house, and I stayed over, and I woke up super early in the morning because that was the morning that they were going to wake her up from the coma. They were gonna take the intubated thing out of her throat. And I was laying there and I was like, "He's just not worth this. I should be present for being there with my daughter." And I left, and we broke up over the phone, and I didn't see him again until I don't know how many months it was later. He reached out to me, and I think he wanted to give it another go. And we talked, and my daughter was better. She had been out of the hospital for a while, and things were going okay. She was still seeing that guy. Sort of when she started into more drinking. He was a bit of a drinker, this boy, so that's they were just doing their thing and going to bars and having fun, and I was alone. So I thought, okay, got back with this guy, ended up big mistake. And so then I kind of took a time off from guys for a while. No more dating. Let's be present for my daughter. In 2019, that is in the late summer, after summer was over, that is when I moved in with my parents and my daughter got her own place. And here I am again, alone. Why not try dating? Well, I did. And as things got worse with my daughter and the crises elevated and she needed me more and I didn't have boundaries at the time, so the phone rang from my imaginary phone. Yep, I'm on my way, on my way. It didn't matter where I was, it didn't matter who I was with. And guys just weren't into that. They would give it a little bit of a try, but if you're not available for them, why would they be available for you? Does this make sense? Finally, I think it was around the same time that I was leaving the place that I was staying at in Stouffville. It was just at the tail end, and I went on 2 dates with 2 guys, and one was nice. He lived kind of far away. He just there wasn't really I felt like I didn't like him as much, and then I met another guy at the same time, and I really liked him. To me, it seemed perfect. He had a daughter with the same stuff, going through the same stuff that my daughter had gone through. And he had been the one, he was the sole parent looking after this young adult, and he had been there for everything, for the hospital visits, for the doctor's visits, for when she needed him, for when she was self-harming, all the things. He was there, and I thought, "How amazing is this?" I meet someone who we're at the same place in life, and he understands what I was going through, and I understand what he was going through, and we can be there to support each other. And it was great until it wasn't great because that kid of his took priority, just like my kid took priority. And I think that's really the way that it's supposed to go when you're going through stuff like this. I think being if I made the decision to be there for my daughter, like leave my career, sacrifice making really good money, making so many sacrifices, why was I not allowing myself to be there 100% for my kid whilst dating? So I learned. I learned the hard way. I learned to recognize being alone, it's not so bad. It's actually lovely. My self-worth, I matter, and I deserve to be with a person who is available for me, and they deserve to be with a person who is available for them. So I think timing is everything. And it's maybe okay just to have, I don't know, a friends with benefits situation if that's what you're looking for. Me, what I chose to do was just stop dating altogether. I have not dated since 2023. I've not been on an app. I have not gone out. I have not had, I've not made myself available in public. And I've made it be very, very, very well known amongst my friends and people that I play sports with. And I found myself. I started to open my heart for me, for loving me. And I think that this was so much part of the reason that my daughter and I have made it through all of the hard things because I was able to devote my time and my energy and my frequency to healing myself, healing my traumas, and helping her to heal herself and her traumas and being there with her as a 100% supportive mother who's not trying to run off to go on a date or be with a guy or be there for him. I was 100% there for me and 100% there for her, and I think it's made all the difference. So I'm not judging you if you're thinking, "I wanna date." I'm not gonna shame you. I'm not gonna tell you you shouldn't do it. But if you haven't gotten to a place where you enjoy being alone by yourself and having your own take yourself out on a date. I do it so often. My social media loves it when I do those things. I even went on vacation by myself. I went for 2 weeks to Bali. Um, and it was the best time I've ever had in my life. And none of it was surrounding being with a partner or being intimate with anybody. And throughout this whole time, I think things have gone exactly the way that they were supposed to for me. And if we don't put ourselves out there and try things, we can't put ourselves in a situation where we do listen to our intuition and we do fail and learn from our own mistakes. So whatever it is you want to do, go ahead and do it, but just know that you're worthy and Know what's of importance to you and where you wanna be a year from now. And for me, I wanted to be able to be in a place where I can date. That being said, now is the time for me. And I came to this conclusion only a few weeks ago when I was on a cruise. And I recognized, hey, you know what? You've been alone for a very long time. Your daughter is really healthy. She is amazing when it comes to dating men. She seems to have found herself a pretty good one right now. And she doesn't put up with their crap. And I think that watching me fail has helped her to see her own self worth and recognize that she too deserves to be loved, not only by herself, but by another 100% wholly, completely, healthily. And we all do. You do too. So that being said, please follow and subscribe. And if you want to make some comments and have some conversation around this particular topic, please comment below and I'm going to answer you. Or if you feel like you want to reach out on my socials and DM me, you're welcome to do that too. I hope you have a lovely day. Till next time.